Hello, my name is Ken, and I am an ASP-aholic.
Hi, Ken.
Hi. How do I know that? I mean, it's a strange thing to say. I've only been to the ASP trip once, but I guess when you know, you know. I go to a gym a few times a week, and I have friends in an astronomy club I go to every week. And my friends are now telling me, Ken, maybe it's time to stop talking about the trip so much. And maybe every time you appear anywhere, you don't have to be wearing an orange shirt. So why did I enjoy this trip so much? And that's really what I want to spend time on here today with you. But to understand the answer to that, I really need to spend a moment on what I was hoping to get out of the trip. What were my expectations? And to do that, just a quick few seconds on my background. I had a pretty successful career in business. I've got an absolutely wonderful family. Sitting in the back is my beautiful wife, Diana, who I met in kindergarten many, many years ago. We've been married for 43 years. Thank you. That's a credit to her for putting up with me that long. We have a wonderful adult son who, for some reason, still seems to enjoy coming to visit us frequently. We've traveled a bit around the world. I'm still relatively healthy and fit at my advanced age. And basically, what that sums up to be is I've had a really blessed life. I mean, extraordinarily blessed. But for a long time now, I've had this quiet little voice sitting in the back of my head going, you know, you really haven't done very much to help people less fortunate than yourself. And maybe I'm not the only one in the room who has that little voice. So when I started hearing about the ASP trip, at that point I'm retired. I've got time on my hands. I really don't have any excuses not to do something about that little itch I've got in the back of my head. And so after about 40 years of home ownership, and if I'm honest, a near fetish level relationship with power tools, I have probably enough practical experience that I thought perhaps I could offer something on an ASP trip. And I was hoping that a really hard week of work might make a difference in someone else's life. And so what did I find on the trip? Well, first we found a location. I mean, we went to Johnson County, Tennessee, the very northeast corner of Tennessee. It's a stunningly, stunningly beautiful location. It's filled with, tall wooded areas, huge mountains, punctuated with deep valleys. I think they call them hollers down there, and that's where the people live. And like many other geographies near it, Johnson County, Tennessee was absolutely devastated by the floodwaters that came from Hurricane Helene back in 2024, not so long ago. We got to work with a homeowner by the name of Jim. He owned a small place that had a tiny creek running behind it. And in truth, when we looked at the creek, it really wasn't a creek at all. It was more of a trickle. I mean, creeks you jump across. This one we stepped across. To call it a creek was an insult to creeks. When the rains from Hurricane Helene passed through Jim's area, so much water accumulated running down those slopes of his nearby hills so quickly that Jim's trickle literally transformed into a raging torrent that decimated his home to the point where not only was it considered not to be inhabitable, it was also deemed unrepairable. So instantly, Jim had become homeless. When we arrived, ASP had been building a new house for Jim, only a short distance from where his broken home once stood. While working on his new home, we really had ample time to take a look at the old flood-damaged structure. It didn't really look like flood-damaged appearance of a house. It looked more like a burnt pile of rubble. It was confusing. On Wednesday of our work week, the ASP staff stopped by the house to check on our progress, and it was then that one of the staff members showed me a video, it was in the video you just saw, of a controlled burn of the old home that took place a few days before we arrived. I asked if Jim had been present to see his old home burnt to the ground. It turns out he was on site and watched the entire event live. I knew Jim had spent his entire adult life in that home, living with the woman he chose to be his wife and their 3 children. I tried to imagine how devastating it must have been for him to watch an entire lifetime of memories literally go up in flames. Later that same day, Jim stopped by the worksite to see our progress, as he often did. I told him I had seen the video of the fire, and I asked him if it was painful watching his old home burn to the ground in person. And to my amazement, he quite casually said to me, "No, not really. I knew I had something much better coming soon." And that's when it clicked for me. Because an organization like ASP existed, powered fully by volunteers, both young and old, Jim was actually able to be hopeful about his future, despite the terrible event that had befallen him. We were absolutely making a difference in this man's life. For me, one major itch had started to be scratched. I'd love to tell you a bunch of other stories of moments from the trip that will be forever burnt into my memory, but honestly, it's probably best to share those at coffee hour. I will say that spending time working with our entire team was an absolute blast, and I can't wait to do it again next year. Accomplishing something important always brings an elevated sense of satisfaction when it's done with teammates. We were so fortunate to have an incredible group of young people who were committed to the task and worked their absolute tails off. I didn't know them at all before the trip, but today I feel like they're extended family members. I wanted to offer a huge congratulations to them and to their parents, because raising young people in this crazy world we live in, who have caring, open hearts, does not happen by accident. Well done, folks. Finally, I just wanted to conclude by asking you to consider participating in ASP next year if you're physically able to do so. If you know a teenager with a good heart in need of community service credits, please encourage them to consider participating. When you visit an area like the ones ASP services, you quickly see that the level of need is almost unlimited. It's so easy to think, hey, I'm only one person, I really can't make an impact relative to the need. Well, of course, none of us can fix the entire problem, but I do promise you, you can make a difference in one family's life, one person's life. And when you see someone like Jim smile ear to ear when he looks at his new home, you'll scratch your own itch. And that is a wonderful feeling.